Greetings, metaphysicians. In this episode, episode 77, I talk all about exit points, how there are no accidents, no coincidences, and in our bonus content today, I do a clearing of grief for everyone listening. Stay tuned to find out more about that and enjoy the episode.
You are listening to Let's Get Metaphysical. This podcast explores the spiritual and metaphysical world through the experiences and opinions of the host and those interviewed. It should not necessarily be seen as direct endorsement or personal advice to our listeners. We encourage you to use your own discernment, judgment, and intuition regarding anything you learn from this show.
Let's get meta.
Welcome to Let's Get Metaphysical. I'm your host, Renata Maniaci, here to remind you that you are a temporary visitor on this planet with a disposable human body who will rise once again as your soul into the divine when this lifetime has come to its end. Please make the most of it. And that's the topic that I will be talking about today as well, is exit points. And how nothing is an accident, nothing is coincidence. We're also going to talk about grief. I lost someone very, very dear to me recently, and all of these topics have been on my mind. But before we jump into that, I wanted to plug Master John Douglas's Spring 2021 tour, the Blissful Empowerment Tour. That starts later this week on May 14th. There will be several events over the next 6 to 8 weeks of this tour. They are all very powerful for spiritual development. Many have heard me talk about this work on this podcast before. In fact, I did an entire season on the work of John Douglas and the master healing angels that he works with. That is season 4. I encourage you to go listen to it if you have any interest, if this is ringing any kind of bell or stirring any kind of remembrance in your soul. Go back to episode 37 through 48 and take a listen to everything that the Master Angels are here to help us with in the form of different stories of miracles that have happened to over 50 people that I recorded for this podcast. I am really excited about this tour, mostly because I really need it right now. I'm so ready to receive all the healing benefits and all the spiritual development progress that happens with every tour. And there are 2 tours per year. So this is the spring tour, and there's usually a fall tour as well. So I highly recommend you going to look that up, and you can go to divine.com to learn more about that tour. So with that, I think we can jump into the episode now. Are you ready? Let's get meta. Masters and angels, I request your support in helping me be a clear and perfect channel for only the highest divine knowledge and the highest divine truth. Please allow anyone who needs to hear this episode to hear it. Thank you with gratitude and full faith. Bless creation. Someone extremely dear to me, an integral part of my life, passed away recently after a long illness. And so all these different topics are on my mind today. Grief, processing grief, exit points, various exit points or exit point that a soul gets while incarnated in a body. How there are no accidents and no coincidences. And how on a higher level, everything is perfect. Now, this all might sound strange coming from someone who has just lost on a physical level a soul that was very, very important to me. However, it makes me want to record an episode on this topic or these topics of exit points and bring through my own knowledge and my own truths about how everything really is divinely coordinated on a higher level. And it may not appear that way at all. In fact, it is a very common thing on this planet, on this earth, in our experiences, on every continent, in every city, in every place, to ask why when we lose someone, especially if it's somebody who we perceive as having left too soon, and especially without warning. This wasn't necessarily the case for my loved one. But it's interesting to think that when a child dies, or, an adolescent or young adult passes away of anything, an accident, quote unquote, a disease, a tragedy, maybe violence, or an earth event, we always seem to say, oh, why did that have to happen? That wasn't fair. Wrong place, wrong time. What a tragic accident. And I don't feel that that is the highest way to digest something like this. And of course, what I just said sounds kind of judgmental. I realize that. I suppose what I want to offer is the idea that on a higher level, everything is perfect. And that includes exit points. And some people, some souls, have several exit points lined up for themselves in their blueprint, in their map of the places and things that they needed to check off in this lifetime, in the areas where they needed to grow, in the tasks that they needed to complete, in the lessons they needed to learn. So, for example, somebody could have made it through task 1 and had a potential exit point. Maybe many of you have experienced this. You reach a certain part in your life, you've completed something, or reached a certain level of consciousness, and something dramatic or drastic happens, and you almost lose your human life. In any myriad of ways, I've heard this over and over. Almost got on a plane but decided not to, and then the plane crashed. Or a very close car accident, or a brush with some other kind of catastrophe in which you may have or would have lost your human life, this human life. Some people have several of these, what we call exit points. And because our divine blueprint is updating and evolving and changing every moment depending on what we learn, what we accomplish, what we still need help with, what we're just not getting, these points, these exit points can be negotiated for some of us and for many of us. Things can change. The karma on something that you need to pay back might have been counted down by the last several years of your service to this particular community, for example. Or you may have finally learned an important, integral lesson that your soul needed to integrate before it could move on to the next level of consciousness. And in doing that, you maybe have renegotiated for a new exit point. Or maybe you integrated that lesson that took you 12 lifetimes to learn, and that was the exit point. Learning that lesson allowed you to drop this rotting carcass of a body, pun intended. It's something that we can all laugh about, I think. on some level, these bodies so dense and subject to so many laws of third dimensional reality. And leaving the body, taking that exit point, was actually something that your soul had been waiting for several lifetimes, to learn that lesson so that you could leave the body and perhaps not have to come back to a third dimensional reality, which, as we know now, is not the highest level of reality in terms of vibration and frequency and light, if we want to put all of it out there. And so the idea that I'm getting at here is, if we can expand our vision, if we can zoom out and see the big picture of our lives and anyone else's life, this human life that we are all experiencing in one form or another together here on this planet at this time, if we can zoom out and be open to the possibility that there are no accidents, there are no coincidences, that everything is happening with divine perfection in every moment. And just as that is happening, it is all being recalculated every moment as well, based on our actions, our thoughts, our progress, and our karma. I've broached the topic of karma several times now on the show, and it is a difficult one for those of a certain level of consciousness to grasp, and I understand that. I remember hearing more and more about karma about 5 years ago, from then till now, and my thoughts and beliefs and understanding about karma have evolved tremendously since that time. Karma is often thrown around as a naughty word or a bad word or a, karma is a, insert any negative cuss word you want. But it's often hurled at someone as an insult or as a threat almost. When really karma, somebody's personal karma, almost couldn't be more detached and unemotional. Karma itself is not emotional. It is a law of the universe, no matter where you are. If we had incarnated to a different planet, let's say a fifth dimensional planet, and we weren't even in physical bodies, or we didn't even appear in a human form at all, maybe we're just blobs of energy floating around, there's still karma in those realities, in those planets, in those solar systems, in those other universes. There's karma everywhere. Karma simply means action. And so as we progress through our infinite number of lifetimes in various places and various forms, we're not always in the human form, and we're certainly not always on Earth, at least not all the time. Certainly there are souls on this planet who have spent eons on Earth, lifetimes, thousands of lifetimes here. And the same goes for somebody on a different planet. Let's say the Pleiades or Arcturus or wherever. We don't know. We're not even close to knowing all the names of the other planets. It's infinite. But just to throw out some that might sound familiar to some people here, those beings could have spent heaps and heaps of time in those realities, on those planets, creating karma through those lifetimes over there. And they might be taking 7, 12, 31, a billion lifetimes over in their solar system to learn their next evolutionary lesson. We're just trying to expand the thinking here, expand the mind. Take the limitations off the mind, take the boundaries off the mind. Karma is everywhere, as I understand it. The guidance that I've been getting, the downloads that I've been given, however you want to categorize that. Some people don't like the word download. Fine. Whatever language you want to put on it. From what I understand, karma is everywhere. And it's not to be hurled at someone as a threat or an insult or anything. It simply is unemotional, unattached. It just is what is. If you killed someone or a being or beings in a past lifetime, you will need to pay for that negative karma. No matter what planet you are on, no matter what kind of being you were. Now, if we really have had hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions and infinite lifetimes, we obviously have karma attached to each and every one of those lifetimes. And hopefully a lot of it is positive karma, and it goes in the karmic bank as positive credit against anything else that might have accumulated. That is what would be considered negative karma. All of your actions and even your thoughts acquire karma. And so let's make sure that it's as much positive karma as possible. And this is what I'm talking about to get back to the topic of exit points and grief, if you will, is that we do not, on this level, on our basic level of consciousness on this planet and remembrance, fully understand how karma works. And this is why a large percentage of the planet would feel sad at a child dying from leukemia or a teenager getting killed in a car accident or a young woman dying in a plane crash, or on and on and on. And of course we get sad when our loved ones pass away, even if it's expected, and even if they lived a good long life. But what we don't see is the karma that is attached to that lifetime, to that soul. Maybe coming in as a soul in a young child and acquiring leukemia and dying young was the perfect and fastest way for that soul to pay off negative karma accumulated over 30 lifetimes. That's possible. And if we're looking at it from the big picture, the grand scheme of things, what matters the most is a soul's evolution, a soul's journey to higher and higher understanding and higher consciousness. And so if that situation was the highest, most efficient, most quick route for that soul to move forward in their evolution and pay off maybe heaps of karma all at once, that soul signed up for that exit point. We don't see that on this level. We don't. We don't understand it. We question it. We question God. We question non-God. We say it's an accident. We say how tragic. We grieve. We're sad. But I think on some level we are getting to a point in our collective consciousness where we can begin to zoom out and see the bigger, greater picture that we are all part of, that we are all involved with. And maybe we can start to see the beautiful, divine, and perfect way we all live from moment to moment, including our exit points, including our loved ones' exit points, including so-called tragedies, including so-called catastrophes, including events that scare us, bring fear to us because we don't understand them. And we question God, we question a higher power, the universe. Why would that happen? Why, oh, why would this plane crash? Why, oh, why would this person go in and murder 37 people? And on and on and on. Of course, we're always focused on the negative, but all of these things happen for a reason. And on this level of consciousness, on our collective level of consciousness on the planet, we don't get to see those reasons. Higher expressions of life, higher levels of consciousness, beings, do get to see this. The higher we each evolve in consciousness, the more we understand, the more we get to see, the more all of these universal laws make sense, because we're allowed to understand more. Our awareness grows. We're allowed to become aware of more of the truth. I guess part of why I'm talking about this today is that on a physical level, on a very human physical level, there is a very large part of my heart that is devastated by the loss of my loved one. At the same time, on a spiritual level, I am rejoicing for that soul and where they are now and what they get to see and become aware of and experience through dropping the body on this level. It truly is a celebration when a soul gets to leave the body on this level, as long as the soul had a positive life. And by that I mean one lived in truth and they don't have anything, they didn't acquire heaps of negative karma and they lived a more positive karmic life than a negative karmic life, etc. Of course, there are beings on the planet whose job it almost seems like to acquire negative karma through their deeds and misdeeds and lying and cheating and stealing and killing and plotting and all of that. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm referring to the grand majority of beings, humans on this planet, who, when they do reach their final exit point for this lifetime, will leave the body. And it's a joyous thing. It's a thing to celebrate. It's a thing to laugh at. It's a thing, and by laugh, I mean laugh with joy. To rejoice in that freedom from this lower level of consciousness, from this dualistic world, this world of black and white, and right and wrong, and half good and half bad, as we experience now on the planet. And that is shifting. It is shifting. But what a triumph to have lived a life and exited exactly when you're supposed to, because that is the only way it can be. It's the only way it can be. You can only exit exactly when you are supposed to. And yes, the calculations for that moment may change daily, by the hour, by the minute even, depending on all of these different things, including karma. But at that moment, at that precise moment where the soul leaves the body on this level, that is perfect. That is divinely perfect for that particular soul and their soul's contract and their soul's acquired karma throughout all of their lifetimes and experience. And on a higher level, on a spiritual level, it's a moment for rejoicing. I want to share something that was shared with me at the loss of this person. When someone dies, it is because at that point, their karma has become insurmountable in the present body. It is not possible to understand why death has come when it did, and there is certainly no point in assuming responsibility and guilt. The course of action was unfathomable. However, especially for someone on the path of speedy evolution, the transition is purely evolutionary. They go to the celestial realms or are reborn almost immediately. When life leaves the body, it is the breath leaving, like transcending. For one who has been accustomed to this experience for many years, the transition is easy, painless, and blissful, not catastrophic. Dropping the body is like letting a bird out of its cage. Grief is natural. At first, when grief is deep and sharp, these emotions of the family and friends allow the soul to feel that they were loved very deeply. It is also natural that the grieving should taper off, allowing the soul to feel that their passing was not a drag on the life of their beloved ones, and that they are free to move on to their destiny. It is important to feel positivity and support for the departed soul, wherever they be, because our attitude affects their evolution. That was a quote from Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, the founder of Transcendental Meditation. And I'm going to leave it there for today. I really appreciate you listening. I do appreciate everyone who has been listening into this episode and for taking this journey with me. This has been a very beautiful time in my life, full of many growth experiences that I'm super grateful for. And for the bonus content of this episode, I wanted to include you all in that. So I'm doing a clearing of grief. And grief can come in many forms. It's not just from losing a person, although that is often the case when we accumulate grief, but it also comes from losing pets or not accomplishing a goal, or even accumulated from past lifetimes and you have no idea why you feel such grief. It's just there. So the bonus content today is a clearing on all of that to the extent that we are able. You can access the bonus content by going to patreon.com/up-up-and-awaken. And as I said, I will leave it there for today. Please check out John Douglas's spring tour with the Master Angels, the Blissful Empowerment Tour, by going to divine.com. I highly recommend it for anyone who is serious on moving forward in their spiritual evolution and their spiritual development. This work does make a huge difference in a very quick and efficient way, in a powerful way, and in a blissful way. So check that out if you have any interest. Thank you for listening. Stay positive, stay safe, and stay meta.
The Let's Get Metaphysical podcast is an Up, Up, and Awaken production. Our intention is to raise the vibration of the planet by sharing, validating, and normalizing spiritual and metaphysical experiences. If you are ready to raise your vibration, you might enjoy our free Let's Get Meta Master Clearing. To receive the Master Clearing or to learn more about the podcast, visit letsgetmeta.com. The show is produced and hosted by Renata Maniaci. You can access more awakening content, join our membership community, or become one of our angel donors by visiting upupandawaken.com. Thank you for listening. Stay meta.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.
Let's get meta.
Metaphysical.